Next on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
On this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, we take a look at why the U.S. cow herd is shrinking and what can be done. Plus, tips on how to manage scours in your herd.
And now, NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with host Kevin Oxner.
Welcome to this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Topping this week's cattle industry news, if you're a cow-calf producer, are you holding back more heifers this year to add to your cow herd? Right now, it seems fewer producers are doing so. Back in July, the USDA reported the U.S. beef breeding herd stood at 31.7 million head. That's down from a year ago. And as Brian Baxter reports, the shrinking cow herd was a hot topic at this year's Cattle Industry Summer Conference.
I think the biggest challenge that we've got is that we have the lowest cow numbers in 50 years. And the last report was down about another 1.8%. Now that carries right on through to the calves. Then we have the lowest calf crop in 50 years. Right now the feedlots are overbuilt about 25 to 30% in capacity compared to what's available to feed. The packing plants are overbuilt 25 to 30% coming from the feed yards. And so we've got all this excess capacity and the cow numbers continue to go down.
Why are U.S. cow numbers falling? No one knows for sure, since every operation has their own reasons for making the decision to either expand their herd or cut back on cows.
You know, I'm concerned about it probably for some of the underlying reasons that are other than economic, meaning that, you know, we've got a lot of folks that are just plumb give up, you know, and that vacuum's not being filled. And you don't just, our cycle takes 3 years. So if we were to start today herd building, we're 3 years from really increasing our production. And you don't just go out and make cows.
The discussion about the shrinking cow herd has been something that we've talked about for all the years that I've worked for NCBA. But it's been kind of interesting lately as we've seen, you know, very solid profitability, not only at the cow-calf level, which we've had for many years, but at the feedlot level now, they're profitable again in 2010. At the processing level, everybody up and down the chain. And so people are beginning to have some discussions about, hey, we need to kind of turn our head around the other direction and think about the future a little bit.
So far this year, most areas of the country have had good grazing conditions available, and cow-calf producers have generally had profit opportunities, factors that normally encourage herd expansion. On the other hand, the outlook for the economy is cloudy, and there are concerns about additional government regulation on cattle producers.
Certainly that is a concern, and we look for it and had a nice discussion yesterday here at the summer conference about opportunities to encourage young people and providing the tools necessary to for them to be profitable and to stay within the business. I think I'm going to compliment the NCBA for working on the regulatory front and helping ensure that we have a kind of environment where we can prosper and help expand our herds and continue to provide a great product for consumers around the world.
With U.S. beef exports rising and profit opportunities continuing, most cattlemen say higher U.S. cow numbers will follow. But many note that the real key to growing the industry is making it possible for young producers to stay in the business.
I think our future revolves around our capacity or capability for our youth to stay engaged and have an opportunity to be in production. Probably the one and most important thing we can do is to continue to develop leadership within our youth and interest to stay involved in the industry. I'm very fortunate. I have a son who is my partner, but I know a lot of folks whose kids have left the ranch or the farm. We've got to stop that trend.
What I'm really encouraged about is the NCBA Young Producers Council. You see some younger guys in this industry that are very progressive, very active in NCBA, and they're taking a very serious look about the future and growing this business.
In Denver, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
No doubt it does take a leap of faith to grow your cow herd or to make a commitment as a young person to stay in the beef cattle industry. Just a little later, we'll have an update on the NCBA Young Producers Council and how it's working to engage young people in the beef industry. It often takes a very serious situation to be reminded about the importance of farm safety. September, of course, is Farm Safety Month, and we're taking a few minutes to think about how we can all play a role in keeping our employees, friends, and families safe on the farm and ranch every day. Joining me in the studio today is Mike Deering of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Thanks for coming to the show.
Absolutely, Kevin. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit, why is it so important that we focus on this issue of farm safety?
Well, farmers and ranchers should always focus on farm safety. The way I look at Farm Safety Month is kind of a billboard for the issue and a wake-up call. This is a time to make a farm safety plan on your farm and on your ranch and share that with your family. Share that with workers on the ranch and those kind of things. Go through, do a walkthrough on your operations, evaluate potential hazards, and if there's anything that's a blatant malfunction that needs to be fixed, that you refuse to fix to save a buck or two, and duct tape and baling wire won't do to really fix it.
You've been to my place.
Believe me, I speak from experience on my Missouri farm on that, but it's just important to make it a priority and have caution signs on your farm and ranch, not only for your guest, but as a reminder to yourself at times too, just to minimize the risk, to avoid some costly consequences. And when I talk costly consequences, I'm not just talking about injury and death, which if that isn't enough, I'm talking money. Insurance premiums are skyrocketing, and you can save 10 to 15% on your workers' compensations premiums just by making it a priority. And you can get free consultation by doing that by just going to the Department of Labor's website. They'll show you how to make a plan, and you can save some money.
Well, we talk about employees and folks like that, but what about kids? There's a lot of us have kids at home, and I know you're a huge believer in educating young people as well.
It is so important. I'm a member of Farm Safety for Just Kids, a very important organization. It's important for a lot of different reasons. In rural America, it should be top priority to have a seminar of some kind for kids. Everybody involved in this business has known somebody who's been injured or killed. I know a rancher in Missouri that was driving over haying his cows, driving over a pond dam, wasn't aware of the dangers, and that tractor tipped over and it killed him. And it took another farmer and rancher out of commission. And not only did it crush him, it crushed me, because that guy was my dad. And so I've taken that issue very seriously. And why are kids important? Because kids are a wake-up call. Kids are so innocent that they remind us to think about the little things. So many times, kid comes home and says, "Don't forget to wash your hands after using the restroom," or "Don't forget to put your seatbelt on, Dad." A reminder. And so it's very important not only for those kids to remain safe on farms through these educational programs, but to also educate their own parents as well.
You know firsthand then, obviously, the statistics that recently showed, once again, that from Bureau of Labor statistics, that farming and ranching is, in fact, one of the most dangerous occupations. Why do you think that is?
Well, farmers and ranchers are undoubtedly very good at what they do, providing food and fiber for a growing global population. And they do so day after day, sometimes very similar tasks year after year. And with years of practice, I think some awareness gets depleted, and being caught in a routine is synonymous for being caught off guard. And then that opens the door wide open for deadly consequences and for some very serious injuries and those kind of things. And the most recent data came out August 19th, and it was better news, but still bad news. Farming and ranching went from the third most dangerous profession in 2008 to the fourth most dangerous in 2009. We have 38.5 deaths per 100,000. So there was 293 deaths in 2009. And I want people just to make this a priority so that they're not up here talking on a first-hand experience.
Absolutely.
Once you've seen your dad and mentor killed on these kind of, changes your perspective.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that powerful testimony.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
For more information on Farm Safety Month, visit cattlemantocattleman.org. Ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Everything that calf gets has got to come through colostrum, or through that first mill.
We head to Nebraska to learn more about preventing scours on your operation. Plus, we head to Alabama to visit the museum. Stay with us.
Draxxin, clearly cattlemen's #1 choice to fight BRD. Here's why. Nothing's more depressing in a stalker business as the doctor and doctor. And you still have your chronics, you still have your death loss. And with Draxxin, we just found out that, especially with microplasts, you just had to be there to see the results.
And the evidence backs up what most cattlemen already know. Draxxin cuts chronics and mortalities by 70%. So talk to your veterinarian and check the online calculator at Draxxin.com. You'll see, nothing gives you more for your money when you're fighting BRD.
Just a great antibiotic.
Very, very effective. Don't let the price tag scare you.
It's a no-brainer. You just use it.
Do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Please visit Draxxin.com or call 1-888-DRAXXIN for more information.
Quality matters to me because I'm responsible for the care and preserving the health of cattle every day. Healthy cattle are the key to safe and wholesome beef. As a vet, I work hard to look out for the well-being of the cattle, no matter the time of day, no matter the weather. I'm here for the animals, and my work matters when it comes to the safety of the beef Americans eat. I'm proud of what we'll do here today.
Welcome back. Scours is the most common disease among newborn calves. It can be mentally, physically, and financially draining on ranchers to endure a scours outbreak. Intervet Shearing Plow Animal Health is working hard to ensure calves start healthy and stay healthy. Reporter Dave Russell heads to Alliance, Nebraska to see how minimizing a calf's exposure to pathogens and maximizing its immune response can prevent an outbreak.
Success in producing and raising healthy, profitable calves hinges on a good start.
For cow-calf producers, their whole profit structure is based on calves. I mean, that's what they have to sell, and so having live calves, getting calves off to a good start is really critical to their success. So in the first 30 to 60 days, the major problem or challenge that these calves face is scours.
Scours, or neonatal diarrhea, is an infection that destroys the lining of the gut, causing the calf to become dehydrated and unable to absorb vital nutrients. Once an outbreak has occurred, treating scours is not an easy task.
One of the reasons it's difficult is because a lot of times we're dealing with viruses, and so our typical antibiotic-based therapies are not going to have any effect on viruses. The calves, the major problem they face is that they dehydrate quickly, they lose a lot of fluids, and so the main treatment is aimed at trying to restore those fluids. So that can be done early on by tubing the calves with electrolytes for more severely dehydrated calves, and we'll put in an IV. It's a pretty labor-intensive kind of deal.
In addition to a labor-intensive treatment process, calf scours can take an emotional and financial toll on a rancher.
It's their job to get these babies started and keep them alive, just like your own kids, really, and so they take it seriously, and it's pretty hard on them when it's failing. When you get a bunch of calves getting sick, all of a sudden your workload doubles or triples. Everybody's working overtime, and so just, emotionally and stress, it takes a big toll. Financially, you've got the cost of treatment, the cost of calves that die that are not going to be there when it comes time to sell. So even the survivors of a scours outbreak, can have some permanent damage there, so they don't absorb nutrients as efficiently, so they fall behind. They don't gain weight as fast, and so there's several studies that have documented that calves that have had scours compared to calves that don't are going to be 20 to 30 pounds lighter at weaning.
The viruses and bacteria that cause scours are primarily contracted through manure.
Anywhere you have manure and mud and water to kind of help mobilize those bacteria, that's where they're going to get it. So one good way to pick it up is off the teats. When they go to nurse, if that cow's udder is dirty and it's got mud and manure on it, then they're going to get a nice dose of bacteria that way. Or if they search around eating little hay and things off the ground. They'll pick it up that way. As a few animals in the herd get sick, then they start shedding much greater numbers of the bacteria or the virus into the environment, and so that tends to have a snowball effect, and more get sick.
When winter weather conditions are harsh, cows and heifers are often forced into a small area to be watched. This concentrates the amount of manure, making scours even easier to contract. Dave Sturkle, manager of Snake Creek Ranch in Alliance, Nebraska, knows the challenges this kind of situation can have.
This morning's just typical morning. It was 0 degrees when the sun came up, and so everything that we calved through the barn. We want to keep the barn clean and dry, but that's a perfect world, and we don't always live in a perfect world. If you're having a lot of calves, it's hard to get the barn as clean as you want. And the exposure to the manure is higher than what it would be out on grass, but calving them cattle in February, it's just impossible to have enough grass range to calve on and still close enough to the barn that you can help them calves when it's cold.
We'll return to Nebraska for more. Stay with us.
You know, I didn't think I could afford to vaccinate for scours. Then my vet told me about Guardian vaccine. Guardian offers the most complete coverage of anti-scours vaccine. And now Guardian can protect my calves against E. coli up to 6 months prior to calving.
It pays to vaccinate with Guardian Scours vaccine.
Thanks to Guardian, I have healthier calves and healthier profits.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain mineral special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
Welcome back. Let's return to the experts with Intervet Shearing Plow Animal Health to learn more about scours prevention.
Even when dealing with less than perfect conditions, Dr. Hill says there are ways to minimize exposure. First, don't overcrowd your calving cows. If you calve in a barn, be sure it's as clean as possible. And take into consideration using something like the Sandhills calving system to ensure you are continually moving to clean calving ground in order to avoid pathogen and manure buildup.
There's a system called the Sandhills calving system developed in Sandhills in Nebraska, where you take your main cow herd, you calve in pasture number 1 for a week or 10 days, and then you leave the cows that have calved with their babies there, and everybody else moves on to the next clean pasture. They calve there for a week or 10 days, and same thing, those that haven't calved move on to clean pasture. One important thing we've learned is that those older calves become the primary source or reservoir of infection. So keeping some distance between the oldest and the youngest is an important strategy.
However, minimizing exposure to manure is only half the battle. Maximizing the calves' immunity against scours causing pathogens is critical. Since calves are born with no immunity, ensuring consumption of good quality colostrum to build up the calves' immunity level against these pathogens is critical.
The immunity of a calf is important because essentially they're born without any immunity, okay? With human babies, there's a transfer of antibodies through the blood, and so when a baby's born, he has a nice level of immunities from its mother. Calf's not that way at all. It gets no transfer through the blood, so everything that calf gets has got to come through colostrum, or through that first milk, okay? So in order for that to happen effectively, that calf's got to get up after it's born, get to its mother, and have a good full meal of colostrum. And in that colostrum, then there's concentrated levels of antibodies that cow has produced, transfers them to the calf. We call it passive transfer.
Timing of colostrum consumption is critical. Only 12 hours after birth, the calf's ability to absorb protective antibodies from the colostrum drops below 50%. So the sooner the calf can nurse and obtain colostrum, the better. And vaccinating the cow early enough to establish good levels of protective antibodies in the colostrum is important.
By vaccinating the cow, we stimulate the cow then to produce higher levels of antibodies, and those antibodies then again concentrate in the colostrum. So that's how vaccinating the cow eventually helps protect the calf. A good timing is to vaccinate the cow about 7 to 8 weeks prior to calving. Then by 5 weeks, she's beginning to move antibodies into the milk, and everything works out great.
When choosing a Scour's vaccination program, producers should be sure it includes a wide range of protection.
A good Scour's vaccine should cover the breadth of viruses and bacteria that are important that we know are causes of scours. And so there are several strains of the coronaviruses, the rotaviruses, E. coli, Clostridium bacteria, or some of those. So they need to have the breadth of coverage in a vaccine.
And new technology in vaccine manufacturing allows the animals to develop a more targeted, longer-lasting immune response.
One of the most important features of new vaccines that have come on the market in the last 4 or 5 years is what we call subunit technology. And it refers to the E. coli antigen in the vaccines. This little model helps illustrate what we're doing. Older vaccines that use whole cell technology, you just take the whole cell and put it in the vaccine. The bad part about that is that cell wall is made up of endotoxins, and the less endotoxin we have in the vaccine, the fewer reactions, bad events, lumps and bumps we're going to have from the vaccine. So the newer technology called subunit, we just take the pili here, these little hair-like projections, and put them in the vaccine, throw the rest of the cell away. It allows us to get a more focused, more targeted immune response.
Dr. Hill says that a Scour's vaccination program should be a consistent element of your cow-calf health protocol, especially when cash flow is tight.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and in this case, a pile of money, because scours are so difficult to treat. Some of these pathogens cause sudden death. You don't get a chance to treat them. The viruses don't respond well to treatment, so it's a very important thing to keep in place.
It's like going through life without health insurance. I mean, it's pay me now or pay me later. I can't begin to fathom what a 30 or 40 or 50% infected herd of scours would cost your bottom line.
At the end of the day, Dave says a good Scour's vaccination program gives his calves the advantage he's looking for.
It's just a step up for Mother Nature, and when you have that storm and your ground gets wet, even on the sandhills method, you know, they're challenged with weather as we are. It's just going to give you a leg up for the duration of the season with that calf.
In Alliance, Nebraska, I'm Dave Russell, reporting for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
As calving season approaches, remember the two things to keep in mind for successful calf scours prevention are to minimize exposure to pathogens and maximize the calf's immune response by improving the cow's antibody production level and colostrum delivery. This segment was brought to you by our friends at Intervet Shearing Plow Animal Health, a research-driven company that develops, manufactures, and markets a broad range of veterinary medicines, including Guardian, the most complete scours protection vaccine. For more information, you can visit guardianvaccine.com or cattlemantocattleman.org. We'll be right back.
Consumers count on America's cattlemen to deliver quality beef every time. So in your daily work to raise cattle, keep quality top of mind in everything you do, in the care, feeding, and handling of your animals. You can be a part of a national program that provides sound, proven guidelines for beef cattle production that will establish you as a leader and responsible stockman. Beef Quality Assurance, or BQA, is a national program funded by the Beef Checkoff that can help you strengthen your operation, improve cattle care, drive more value to the bottom line, and increase consumer confidence in the quality of America's beef. Producers across the nation have embraced the BQA program because of their commitment to be the world's best producers of beef, and because assuring beef quality is our job, not someone else's. Find out how you can become BQA certified. Visit the website bqa.org.
With today's Management Minute, here's Dr. Kevin Hill with Intervet Shearing Plow Animal Health.
One of the key elements in scours prevention is obviously colostrum management. The only way that we're going to protect calves adequately is to get the antibodies from the cow to the calf. So the critical items are the amount of colostrum they get, the quality, and when they get it. As far as quality goes, we can improve quality by vaccinating the cow so she produces more of the important antibodies. By timing, the important features there are that the calf gets that colostrum hopefully within the first 2 to 3 hours of life. As that time period progresses, the ability of that calf to absorb colostrum goes down dramatically, so that by 12 hours he only has about a 50% efficiency of absorption. By 24 hours, virtually none. So the timing is critical there. In order to get good colostrum, we have to make good colostrum. That process is called colostrogenesis. In other words, the process the cow goes through after she's vaccinated. She produces antibodies, and then she moves those antibodies into, concentrates them into the milk, that first milk that the calf gets when it's born. One of the problems with that is that if we give it too late, the cow doesn't have time to build those antibodies. And if we give it too early, the antibody levels may actually start to drop before she calves. So the timing is pretty critical. A good timing is to vaccinate the cow about 7 to 8 weeks prior to calving. Then by 5 weeks, she's beginning to move antibodies into the milk, and everything works out great. If we give those vaccines too late, a lot of things can happen. The cow may calve early. We may have a storm front moves in, induces a little bit earlier calving, and so she hasn't had time to get that process done. So timing's critical. Get the vaccine in the right time for the best results.
If you have questions, contact your local veterinarian or your local Intervet Shearing Plow Animal Health representative.
Every time I head out with my kids to check cows, I can't help but be grateful for the opportunity I have to live on our ranch and to raise cattle as a family. And as we've met the regional winners of the 20th Annual Environmental Stewardship Awards these past few weeks, it's clear that family is one important reason these folks have for the work they do every day to care for the land, the water, and their cattle. Now let's trek to eastern Utah and meet the Jensen family, your Region 6 award winners.
Standing at nearly 10,000 feet, it seems you can see forever on the Tavaputs Ranch. Located in eastern Utah, the ranch covers more than 350,000 acres of private, state, and federal lands. And the family roots here go back to the 1880s.
Yes, 1889. My great-grandparents came into this part of the country down in Desolation Canyon and started the beginning of the ranch.
Desolation Canyon, that's over my shoulder there, that's where the home ranch was back then, McPherson's. It was the main thoroughfare from Robbers Roost to Browns Park. All Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch traveled through there. Traded horses a lot with my family. A lot of history right there.
I think it's just special to be here to follow in everybody's footsteps. It's pretty neat to be the 5th generation here on the ranch and just do what my grandparents were doing.
We run about 1,200 cows, cow-calf operation. We summer on these high plateau mountain ranges in the summertime. We winter out on these deserts here in southeastern Utah.
With a well-managed cow herd, Tavaputs Ranch is going strong under the leadership of Butch and Jeannie Jensen, along with their son Tate and daughter Jenny. Just as it was done a century ago, they trail their cows from the desert winter range to summer on the Tavaputs Plateau.
This terrain here, it's pretty unforgiving, so it's pretty much everything on a horse still, and the cattle, they know where they're going. They like to come, but yeah, you still have to do everything on horseback.
It's really unique that you have a 30-mile cow drive today. These cattle never see a semi-truck. They trail back and forth. The mileage isn't as impressive as the elevation change. They winter at about 6,000 feet, have to go over a 8,400-foot pass back into Range Creek, which is about 7,000 feet, and then on up here, up and over 9,600 feet. There's a lot of elevation change in that many miles.
Sharing the story of cattle ranching and caring for the land, as well as adding to their income, is one reason the Jensens have long opened Tavaputs Ranch to guests who take in the natural beauty and get a taste of the cowboy way.
We cater to guests from all around the world, from family retreats to, Range Creek tours to anything like that. And I guess my main job is making sure their bellies are full and making sure that they're treated like family.
We meet wonderful folks, and they truly enjoy coming to a real working cattle ranch. A lot of them get to herd cows while they're here with us. We have a beautiful herd of wildlife, the mule deer and elk, and they'll get to see a bear once in a while.
Wildlife is plentiful on Tavaputs Ranch, especially as the Jensen family has worked to develop ponds to control invasive sagebrush and manage the land to keep the forage in peak condition.
All you got to do is drive across this ranch, and you can tell by the vegetation, that we haven't been abusing this land, that we're taking care of it.
It's all in really good shape in terms of how its potential to produce a variety of forage and be a good habitat for animals of all kinds. And that's pretty much the index for me in terms of its stewardship.
I think the biggest thing that we talk about is our not using every blade of grass, every AUM. You've got to have the buffer zones. It seems like the drought is the norm, not the exception around here, and you really have to plan for it.
The Jensens have worked closely with Utah State, NRCS, and other partners to improve their land and forage.
And they've approached a group that we've partnered with, the Skyline Cooperative Weed Management Area, to control musk thistle on their rangeland. It's a noxious weed that's invaded their rangeland in some areas.
And from installing cross fences to manage grazing, to preserving groves of quaking aspen, they don't overlook any aspect of stewarding their land.
The land has just got to be the first priority. You can't do anything if the land isn't in good shape. If you overgraze it, it's going to be gone before you know it. That's the thing the grandparents, passed down through the years. If you're overgrazing, you're going to be a short-term rancher. You've got to be in it for the long haul. You got to be thinking ahead. You got to be making good management decisions that's going to be good this year, next year, and 20 years from now.
Though Tavaputs Ranch is vast, the Jensen family is continually working on the details that allow their cattle and the environment to thrive together.
I've had wonderful, not just my mom and dad, but both sets of grandparents have instilled that in both Tate and I to take care of the land and save it for the future.
I think that's a testament to what we're doing here, that it can withstand the generations and the test of time. There's been a lot of changes here since 1889, but we're still running cattle in the Tavaputs Plateau.
I think it was instilled in Butch and I from our parents and from my grandparents, to take care of the land. And I feel like we're doing a good job.
Throughout our family's history, it was always taught us that, if you don't take care of the land, it's not going to take care of you. We're not in it for just a short time, make some money thing. You got to look down the road and try to maintain it for future generations.
Always, you can check out stories just like this one on our website, cattleman2cattleman.org, or try us on Facebook. Just search NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. We'll be right back.
Comprehensive, Practical, powerful. Now's the time to put the power of DNA to work in your herd with the comprehensive Igenity profile. The inside information from Igenity can help you make more confident replacement heifer and herd sire selection decisions, add marketability to your feeder cattle, make faster genetic progress, and more. The best time to get started is when you're already working cattle, during branding, weaning, or bull soundness exams. Get started today. Visit Igenity.com or call 1-877-IGENITY to put the power of DNA to work in your herd.
Our quarter pounder with cheese is made from 100% pure USDA beef. That means there's 0% anything else. That's what we're made of.
Based on my experience in the beef industry and with the National FFA organization, I recognize how critical it is to encourage young people to stay in agriculture and to help provide the resources that allow them to do so. That's why I'm always so encouraged to hear about the winners of the W.D. Forrest Scholarship Awards, given each year by the National Cattlemen's Foundation. And at this year's Cattle Industry Summer Conference in Denver, two outstanding young women were honored with the W.D. Forrest Scholarship Awards, which will help them continue to pursue their studies in meat science and the beef industry.
To win the W.D. Forrest Scholarship has been kind of my final achievement for my 22 years of education. You look at all the past winners, and it's just such an honor to be part of such a prestigious group of individuals that you hope someday will be the next kind of round of leaders within the industry.
Most definitely is a pretty proud moment to win this scholarship, but I think it's great that so many people entrust the future of the beef industry in young leaders such as myself, and that they're optimistic about the future and that we are going to do the right things to make sure that our children, their grandchildren or great-grandchildren continue living on the land and be stewards like we are today.
Of course, these scholarships given by the National Cattlemen's Foundation honor the late W.D. Farr, a lifelong Colorado cattleman who saw the value of encouraging the next generation of young leaders for the cattle industry. As beef producers retire from the cattle industry, there's an ever-increasing need for people to step in and fill their shoes. One group, called the Young Producers Council, or YPC, is dedicated to preparing the millennial generation to lead the beef industry. Reporter Justin Field has more.
It's nice to come to a meeting that's strictly about my generation and some of our concerns as we progress through the industry.
Young producers ranging in age from 18 to 35 gathered at the NCBA Summer Conference in Denver, Colorado to discuss the future of the beef industry.
There's less young producers coming into the cattle industry than 50 years ago, and as young producers, it's something we need to be aware of to try to position ourselves for the years to come.
It's really important to reach out to this generation, this age group, and let them know there is a place for them, both in the association and within the industry, and let them know that there is a network for them to tap into and gain some of the skills they need to help this industry into the future.
The Young Producers Council is dedicated to helping their peers learn about NCBA and the tough issues all cattlemen are facing.
We offer them opportunities to learn about the inner workings of NCBA from a policy standpoint and how it supports the cattle industry.
It's going to be our industry within the next 10 to 20 years. We're going to be the people that are sitting on these policy divisions now. And in order to prepare for what's going to come, if we're going to protect something, it's going to have to be done by us, through us. We can't look to other people to do it.
And of course, this generation of producers is using traditional and modern methods to recruit members and magnify their voice.
We're trying to do a lot of outreach with our state affiliates that may or may not already have a young producers group, and so trying to grow that presence. We've got our core board of directors and trying to grow opportunities for them, and so we've done a lot of training.
There is a Facebook page for YPC, there's Twitter for YPC, so about anything social media related that you'd like to do, you can find out about it.
The group believes that more young members of NCBA will help strengthen the association.
On average, our members are at least over 50, and so it's nice to bring this younger group in and get some folks who will be the next generation of producers. And so I think if we can grow this age segment and offer them some opportunities within the association, it'll make the association that much stronger in the future.
The Young Producers Council wants everyone to realize that just one person can have the potential to pave the way for future leaders of the beef industry.
One person can become part of an organization, and that organization can get things done. And the activity that you choose to take on in that organization can have a large effect. If you love the industry and love cattle and love what it's about, you need to be involved with other people that love that.
Reporting from the 2010 NCBA Summer Conference in Denver, Colorado, I'm Justin Field for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Now, if you're an NCBA member between the ages of 18 and 35, YPC membership is free. Not an NCBA member? You can get all the details you need to join. Just call us at 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit us at beefusa.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Discover a great roundup for beef producers. Now, Boehringer Ingelheim Vetmedica Incorporated has rounded up the top brands of animal health products. You bet your boots you won't find more ways to protect your cattle. So trust the leader to protect your cattle. Trust Boehringer Ingelheim. Talk to your Boehringer Ingelheim animal health representative and discover how we can help your operation.
You like the John Deere 568 round baler for everything it has. Now, you'll like it even more for what it doesn't. Get rid of the twine tie system and run a 568 with nothing but net. That's right, nothing but easy loading, fast wrapping, bale protecting, cover edge net wrap. Put one to work in your field. See your John Deere dealer today.
Who doesn't love a John Deere XUV Gator? Pretty helpful on the farm and ranch these days. And now you can bid on a 2011 model to support the work NCBA does in Washington, D.C. For details on the John Deere Gator and to bid, visit beefusa.org. There you can see photos and get all the specs. Bids must be received by September 16th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time to be considered. Check it out. It's a great way to support NCBA. Teaching our youth about the importance of American agriculture is the key to the future success of our industry. And in Alabama, it's a top priority. Reporter Sharon Alseth takes us through the museum.
When students roll into Montgomery to visit the Alabama State Capitol and archives, they also make a stop at the Cattle Industry Museum at the nearby Alabama Cattlemen's Association. It's designed with fun, information, and history in mind.
We're kind of designed to handle 40 kids and divide them up. We have a pre-tour kit that we send out that has questions or fact sheets and questions. It's always interesting. You can hear them come in here and say, oh, 4 stomachs. And that would be one of the questions that we send out with a pre-visit. And then after the visit, we send them a post-visit information, some teacher kits that would get into a broader range of stuff. The pasture to plate brochure is very beneficial because you get questions about hormones and antibiotics and factory farms and all of that stuff. So we encourage them to make an appointment, but we do have walk-ins all the time.
Powell grew up in the cattle industry and has ancestors that came to Alabama in 1812. He knows how important cattle are to the state.
We were a cotton state. And when the boll weevil came in the early 1900s, a lot of that land turned back to grass, and our cattle industry really peaked after World War II and today. So we kind of tell that story.
The stories of Alabama cattle families get a special treatment in the museum.
We call it the Appreciation Hall, and those people that gave significant monies, we have a booth with their family history and their contribution to the cattle industry or the livestock industry. We've got a lot of quarter horse, the early quarter horse people, and we take a lot of pride. We've got about 75 booths that focus on a individual family, and that was a lot of hard work, but it was really meaningful when it was completed.
Fun is also a big part of the museum experience.
The one thing the designer said we probably shouldn't do because of the kids tearing it up and that sort of thing, but we've got 2 saddles, we've got cowboy hats, we've got vests, we've got boots, and the kids come in and get to dress up and play cowboy for a moment. It's right under my office, and I can hear the screams penetrating through the floor.
The museum's designer also had a good idea of what kinds of people would visit the exhibits.
He told me, he said, there are 3 types of people that go through museums. There are the streakers, the strollers, and the studiers. So we tried to capture stuff for the streakers, and that's mainly the 4th grade because they boom. But it's interesting, the teachers are going to make them study. So they take those questions and they go around to find the answers. That's really what we try to do here to these school kids, whether they're 4 years old or 14 years old, and our out-of-town visitors, is let them understand that families raise cattle and that the cattle industry is important.
The Alabama Cattlemen's Association Museum opened in 1995 and gets about 10,000 visitors every year. I'm Sharon Alseth reporting for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Want to see the museum for yourself? Visit cattlemantocattleman.org. Stay with us. Baxter Black is up next.
Why is B&W's Turnover Ball the best-selling gooseneck hitch in the country? Maybe it's the ingenious way it solves everyday problems. Or because it's time-tested and is rated to tow 30,000 pounds. Maybe it's because our lifetime warranty gives hard-working people peace of mind. Or maybe it's because folks love to own a hitch that's still 100% made in America. The Turnover Ball by B&W. Trusted.
70% of consumers want to know where their food comes from, and how can we ignore them? IMI Global offers third-party audited source and age verification essential for export markets and specialty markets like natural, organic, omnivoric, Eskimo, or possibly recovering vegan certified. For quality and age producers to the big boys, any cattleman who wants to expand his market, you're not just buying this green ear tag, you're buying peace of mind. IMIglobal.com. There has been much made of the adaptation of machinery to handling cattle. Four-wheelers, jet boats, pickups, helicopters, ultralights, even motorcycles have encroached themselves into the equine domain. To me, there's also a difference in the mindset, rancher or farmer. I myself prefer the rancher cowboy way of working cattle with horses, but I have no gripe with those who are more comfortable in a gas-powered unit. It could be they like the mechanical methods of working cows because it's less exciting. Harold is a Michigan farmer, but a cowboy at heart. He thinks of machinery like it was his horse. Good boy, good boy. Once he was helping his son-in-law wean some calves and ship them. As Harold described it to me, he has a memory of sitting on his ATV watching the gate as his son-in-law moved the calves down the lane. Next thing Harold remembers, the paramedics are standing over him, shining lights in his eyes, putting a tourniquet around his head and puncturing him. He lay on the hard ground and his skull throbbed. From the corner of his swollen eye, he saw the ATV, the left front wheel, looking cockeyed. It was still purring its deep growl and glaring at Harold. In his delusion, he began processing the picture. It threw me off. Was it something I did? Rev the accelerator, stopped on a hole, say something offensive, hit him with my spur, told him a bad tire joke? Did one of the calves kick at it? He couldn't remember it being skittish. He rode it all morning. It never tried to buck. Harold passed out, vowing to check the cinch next time, brush it better, and lift each wheel and clean the tires. But now that he's out of therapy, Harold says he'll never take any old plug for granted, 8-point or 4-wheeler, and I give him a pat on the back for putting excitement back into the cow business. I particularly like the western picture he had painted of himself deep in the saddle, toes pointed out, hand throwed back, putting on a ride ATV at the top of his jump, oil pan to the sky. He called it Treads Up. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We'll be right back.
Quality matters to me because I love my family. I want to raise my family here like generations before me. My family has always worked together and played together. We have always laughed together and cried together. My family is my life. Careful stewardship of the animals and resources that are under my care benefits my family. They live where I work and eat the same food that I produce. I'm proud of what we'll do here today.
Before you head out here, get to Cabela's for gear that's tested, field tested, and proven. Field proven. No matter what your passion, you can trust our gear. It's guaranteed. And our selection? Legendary. Get top-of-the-line brands at bottom-line prices when you shop our catalog, stores, and Cabela's.com. Count on Cabela's, world's foremost outfitter.
Next week on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, we'll head to North Carolina to learn more about managing BRD on stocker operations, plus tips on record keeping from our friends at Beef Quality Assurance, and the latest news and market headlines. Thanks for joining us for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. We'll see you back here next week on RFD TV.